Good evening, I'm Colm Colgan and you're welcome to Business and Enterprise here on Cavan TV. Over the last couple of weeks, some viewers and some guests have asked me the history and the future of Cavan TV, so I decided to find out that information for myself, and the best way to do it was to get the founder and the executive producer of Cavan TV on the programme. So Brian, you're very welcome to a programme on effectively your own station, so you're welcome.
Thanks, Colm. It is nerving in a sense. The control room is my comfort zone, and to be in front of the camera, it's not a thing that I relish. But
this way you'll have empathy with the guests that do appear on. I suppose before we start talking about Drumlinmedia and Cavan TV and the other platforms, we might find out a little bit about Brian Daly.
Well, Brian Daly, married to Frances. 3 children. I suppose you can't really call them children now because they're of voting age and it'd offend them. So the oldest by Rory, and then Anne works in Dublin, and Orla still at Loretto. And so basically I've had the passion for video and photography all my life. I've had a technical background all my life, so I decided I would take early retirement and devote my energy to the emerging technology that's web TV.
Before you got actually into web TV, I won't say in the past, but you still have Drumlinmedia, which was the vehicle for this and many other projects. What is the basis of Drumlinmedia?
Well, Drumlinmedia is, it would form from a hobby, in a sense that over the years I've been involved in photography and video for maybe nearly 30 years, and kept with developments in that technology. Had the interest in all aspects of it. I still would have quite an interest in stills photography, but now with the emergence of Drumlinmedia, I don't have the same opportunities for stills. But Drumlinmedia then evolved from the hobby side of things, that when you begin to realise that there's a market there, that the things are moving in a certain direction, you have to decide, am I going to remain at the hobby level, or are you going to go with what's happening and develop it into long term? It's not I suppose it's not profitable at the moment. I've invested a lot of my own resources into it, both time and finance, but the trends are moving towards revenue streams from it.
You must have a great passion for it, because a lot of us have hobbies that we always wanted to end up turning into a business, but you've actually done that. Films and photography was your hobby for years, and there's an old saying, if you do something that you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life. You've obviously proved that, but what do you think pushed you from, well, this is a nice hobby and I enjoy it. Again, we all enjoyed photography, although it seemed to have been more fun when you had to develop them yourselves. You know, digital pictures took a lot of the crack out of it. But what pushed you to take it from the hobby to the actual production company that is Drumlinmedia?
Well, I always had a sort of a drive to have a commercial side of the thing, even from, would say, my first commercial venture. I can say it now because the customs officials are probably long since parted, but when myself and a friend of mine used to go down to Clones when we were at secondary school on the bicycles in the evening time when it was dark, for squibs, we call them, or bangers, and those type of things for Halloween, and come up and sell them at school, which we weren't supposed to do. But the bicycle shed was a great, it was a sort of our first shop, in a sense. You were able to do lots of things in the bicycle sheds apart from sell bangers. But
that's where I went wrong. I never used a bicycle shed in school for commercial work.
So it was a thing that was always there within me, and right through, people would know of the years that I spent with the HSE, and I shouldn't laugh, of course, but having worked in the commercial world for a good number of years before I joined the HSE, or the NEHB at the time, and tried to bring forward some of the things that you've learned over the years in industry and I retired feeling that I didn't fully achieve after 23 years because it's a different environment. And then when the point came for the retirement package from the HSE, there were a few things over the years that came up, and say CB radios, I was involved with that myself, and Mick Goldrick, who was involved with Cavan TV or Drumlinmedia in the beginning, and so there was certain things over the time that I would have just let go, because when you're in full-time employment, you're raising a family, you have commitments and mortgages and various other things, so that you have to let things go. You make the decision, stay with a steady job. So there would have been maybe 3 or 4 different things over the years that you said, I should have got on that one. Because, and you'd see, I'd look at them now, and there would have been success stories, not just me, but in other areas that would have been the way it evolved, had been success stories. So you have to make the decision, 10 years to getting the free bus pass. It'll probably be 12 or 15 by the time I reach it. There's some.
So this was the one that you saw as the emerging technology, and you'd missed the boat several times before, and there's an old saying.
Well, you let it go in, for own reasons. You have to. Because going out at different times, it's always a risk, and it's a risk now because I've invested a good deal of my own resources in the thing, and so it's still a gamble at this stage.
Yeah. So everything came to place. The HSE retirement package came up. The emerging technology that is web-based programming. Your interest, they all clashed together, and Drumlinmedia came about, was born. I was going to say, use the word born.
It evolved. It evolved into Drumlinmedia, And
what sort of work does Drumlinmedia do, apart from supply content to stations like Cavan TV and other stations throughout the country, which we'll come back to that, but apart from that, what else does Drumlinmedia do?
Well, the structure we put into place was to do professional work, to do corporate work, to do sports work, to do conferences. Some people would have started off that have bought a camera, said I'd do weddings, and weddings are fine, and there is a good market for that, but partially wanted to create somewhat of a new market in the corporate end of things, promotion. Like, for example, we would have done conferences in Dublin and in Cork and Meath, Monaghan, Galway, quite a number of places. So it brings you to the point where you'd say, if you're doing those, why can't those people see those things locally?
And those events, they can be streamed live on the web.
Yeah, well...
And what difference does streaming something live on the web make to an event?
The streaming live is a different discipline completely. You can go to an event, you can record it, give them the DVD, and it's almost like just a very, very closed environment, that there's only a few people would be aware of it. The people that attend, if there were 200 people attend, you might sell 20 DVDs, so it'd be 1/10 of the people that are there and it could be an important event. Like most events have a reasonable relevance, to both the community and to the people that attend and the people that organise it. So, and that's it, almost gone. So if you look at, let's say Father Brown, for example, on the photography side of things, people mightn't realise, but they'd have been maybe 6-inch or 9-inch plate glass negatives, and he'd have hauled those all over Ireland. And you go to every town in Ireland and you see his work.
Yeah.
Magnificent photographs of streets and buildings, and even the Titanic. I think some of the last photographs taken of the Titanic were taken. So it's a resource that people now see as a value, and I'm sure if people were there looking at him lugging those cameras, there might have been some photographs of cameras at that stage. Heck, there must have been enormous weight, both the glass and...
So you kind of see yourself as a modern day father, without a religious background.
No, but not quite to that extent. But now with the emergence of the web and the storage capacity that's available on the web, and the importance of showcasing Cavan, showcasing events, and not necessarily just Cavan, because we do, as the area, we do work in other counties, and they see the value of having their county permanently on view. So it's a shop window to everybody in the world.
Now, speaking of everybody in the world, would Drumlinmedia and the content that it creates for these web-based stations, how big of an effect do you think the gathering will have? Or let me put it another way, how big of an effect will Drumlinmedia have on the gathering, as in for getting information from local communities out to the diaspora?
Yeah, well, we are working with the key people behind the organising of the gathering. There are individual groups. We recorded the open day in the Kilmore in Cavan, and also the open day in the Glencairn in Castleblaney, just to indicate to people that this is now an opportunity for everyone. And both events were there'd been over 200 people at the event in Cavan, and probably close to that in the Glencairn in Castleblaney. And it sort of awakened things in individuals, in organisations, both voluntary and statutory, so that they become aware, like, we can show ourselves. Like, we're doing a lot of organisations and groups that do fantastic work in their own communities. And the gathering, the nature of that is, if you can attract X number of people for whatever event it be, whether it be a family get together. Some families in Cavan, I think they're going with the O'Reilly plan in Monaghan. It could be names like McKenna and Traynor and those type of names that would have large gatherings, and now they'll be dispersed all over the world. And
Drumlinmedia are available to these groups, small or large, not only to record their event but to spread it out to people who wouldn't have a chance to come home for it.
Yeah, well, that's part of what we have to do in the marketing of Drumlinmedia, in that people wouldn't have been fully aware of the advantages of recording, because the people would have a ceilidh, or people would have something in their own community, maybe a fundraising thing, but they wouldn't see the value of recording it. Whereas if an event is recorded, it means then that when they go to organise the next event, that they can say, this is what happened last year. You can see the joy in people's faces, people, all the things that take place. Like if you look at even, Paul had some people on the show there earlier about the Devil's Ceilidh. Philip won the Begrudgers part of the Storyland series on RTE, and that's an indicator to people that it's a permanent record. It's something that people can learn from. So if somebody was organising something in some part of the county, so we'll log on and we'll see what they did in Kilnalek, and sure, if it was successful in Kilnalek, we'll do it in Shercock. And it means that everybody gains.
And of course you've had big commercial successes too, because the Strypes, who are in the news today, basically got their start here on Drumlinmedia, because you recorded one of the performances, and that went to the Late Late Show, and as I said, the rest is history. So what was the bit in the middle there?
Well, we sort of...
Are you the Brian Daly of Cavan?
Well, Niall asked me to. We do a lot of work with Niall in Chapter 1. We streamed it from very early on. From Drumlinmedia started to emerge as the production company, and Niall was very tolerant of us coming in with cameras and positioning them in different places, and sometimes upsetting them with the ambience of Chapter 1 is a magnificent place to go on those Thursday nights. So, and from that, when they decided that they wanted to go on the Late Late Show, he asked us at Drumlinmedia to produce the DVD, and there were quite a few hours in getting the bits and pieces together. We were recorded in Imperial, and we're very fortunate that they were successful. But in saying that, they are exceptional quality bands, so we contributed somewhat to their success.
At one stage, wasn't there 20 minutes, a vital 20 minutes between that contact had to be made?
Oh,
and you can nearly say those 20 minutes with the difference between success and failure, which sometimes is what it often comes down to. So tell us about that.
Well, you hear all sorts of different stories, like the fifth Beatle and various other stories that you hear, years on. So I'd have had it in this sort of sense, in that I would be sitting in the pub, probably over a pint of Guinness, about 85 years of age, and the Strypes would be multi-millionaires, and we're talking to somebody sitting beside you and they're not interested in what you hear. But basically what happened was, when we produced the DVD, I would always brand it with Drumlinmedia and telephone number and everything on it, and when I went into RTE, somehow the cover letter that Niall sent in with the DVD must have been misplaced or something. And I got the phone call, what association have you with the Strypes? And I said, I produced the DVD. And they said, well, we need to talk to somebody in the next 20 minutes, or we'll have to get somebody else. So I know two of the fathers very well, because they both work for the health service, Tommy McDorry and Niall. And I couldn't get through to Niall, so the blood pressure sort of raised a little bit when
this doesn't work, it'll be my fault.
When you know the significance of the Late Show and get an opportunity to audition for it. So I got Tommy and told Tommy the story, and as everyone knows what happened then, Tommy was able to get through to Niall, and Niall then got through to them. So they were called up. But like anyone that they've played in Cavan, and as you know, like they've been in the newspaper, signed the contract, but the quality is there. So it is a case that if they did succeed in the Thai show, and Ryan Tubridy fell in love with them, been on the Late a good number of times. So it is a case that cream does come to the top.
Yeah. And of course that would have gotten many hundreds of thousands of viewers being on the Late Show, but another one of your videos got hundreds of thousands of hits and a worldwide sensation, which is the excavation of the digger. Tell us about it and how it came about.
Well, we've supported through one of our programmes, Community Focus, the one that Drumlinmedia produces in aid of community groups or organisations that want to showcase what they do. Mick Goldrick had friends out in Crostoni, and they were undertaken to raise a bog, or raise an excavator that was buried for over 20 years when they were doing the Ballinamore, the Erin Shannon waterway. A digger sank when they were cleaning out that to as part of the Erin Shannon waterway, and there was an attempt to raise it, and Mick Goldrick, being friendly with a few of the people from round Crostoni, Drumlinmedia were asked to record it, and Mick went out on the Saturday and recorded. He was there 5 or 6 hours, and I went out on a Sunday. I was there something like maybe 8 hours, and up on a cherry picker for about 8 hours, and fortunately it was successful, because there were 3 other attempts and they were unsuccessful, and it's great to be associated with a success, and it's actually raised, I think, over 27,000, and some of the committees are coming in at some programmes now shortly to indicate.
And that's available on the Drumlinmedia YouTube channel. Yeah?
It's on the Drumlinmedia YouTube channel, and I think there's
is it a shortened version or an edited version? Because I'm sure if it's 5 hours, you'd have fallen asleep by the end of it.
It was brought down. It was speeded up. Pádraig Gaffney does some of the editing on voluntary on our behalf, and he speeded it up to 12 minutes. And so the key pieces of there were a number of pulls throughout the day, and even some of the pulls they thought they'd have it out at 2:30, and I was thinking, that's fantastic, I'll be down at the cherry picker now, I'll get me hamburger and go home.
And how many views?
There's 300 and about 385,000.
And when people, and I'm sure they're watching throughout the world, when people are watching that, do they know it's a Drumlinmedia production? Is there something on YouTube that tells you it's a Drumlinmedia production?
Oh yeah, well, most people that are familiar with YouTube, the channel that's associated with the video comes up. And then what happens is there are quite a number of other videos that are closely aligned to it. YouTube have that facility, so even if they were looking at different ones, when they see the number of views, that sort of attracts people to it as well. So it is one of the most successful videos that we have, and it's also important to be able to showcase the work that was done for charity. Excuse me, because the committee themselves, when they were successful, it meant that it wasn't just an isolated incident. A lot of people benefited a couple of charities.
And overall, on the Drumlinmedia channel on YouTube, you appear to have gotten more hits than TV3 and other.
I would maybe not necessarily TV3, but there are longer established web TV channels in different parts of the country, and we would have maybe 2 or 3 times the amount of viewership. So we've a couple of hundred now of videos on YouTube. When we showcased them on several different platforms, from the studio here, and different content. As you can see, like, your show is the Business and Enterprise show, and that is not specific to one particular area. Like, you have had quite a number of people from diverse sort of businesses and that operate in some national sort of areas, so that your program, for example, would have been syndicated to quite a number of other platforms. And the All About Sport one, which is specific to Cavan and showcases a lot of the local sports, that basically will go out on Cavan TV. So, and you know, the parochialism is like in every county and every parish that
absolutely. I didn't notice it when I came up to live here, but it's very parochial.
But you said you're from Dublin, and you'd have heard different things from different parts of both. Like, there's a north-south divide in Dublin, and then there's a north divide that if you're from Ballybun, you don't talk to Balbriggan. Maybe I wouldn't be familiar with it.
Well, in my case, I was born and bred in Cabra, and the next parish our suburb was Finglas, and we just had nothing to do with that. So I'm sure it was exactly the same.
I know, I was going to joke that's in the north side.
But it wasn't the north side, that's what happened.
No, I was only going to say that my hubcaps was stolen a few times going through Cabra, but
only your hubcaps? they must have known you. You mentioned different platforms apart from Cavan TV. What are some of the other platforms you have?
Well, when you put an infrastructure in place, you have to really identify where the market is going, what trends there are in the industry. So we would have virtually all of the counties, and when we work in different counties, for example, we did some work for Monaghan Integrated Development, and that went out exclusively on MonaghanTV.com. And we did quite an amount of work in County Meath, and some work for Flexibus, which is the rural transport operator in County Meath, and that went out exclusively on Meath TV. So that's in a sense where the parochialism comes, and where the market will ultimately develop, that the diaspora abroad who are looking, and especially with the emergence now of the smart TVs, that Cavan specific people will look at Cavan content and other content. Like when you look at the mainstream, the likes of RTE1s and RTE2s, TG Cahir and TV3, they put out non-specific programming. So a lot of them to buy in, so it's not generic stuff to any particular area in Cavan. We say TG Cahir would be more parochial because the Irish language, and it's more native to Ireland, but they buy stuff in. But still, it's a multi-viewer type platform. And that's where we have to be looking at as a production company. If we want to sell our product, and if we're putting out a particular one that may be based in Cavan, for example, or even Dublin, like you're from Dublin, when we went to the tall ships race, Angie Sutherland, and she, a former presenter, she was up at the tall ships race, and we were able to talk to the Lord Mayor of Dublin and introduce it as DublinCityTV.com, so that he was aware that it was a Dublin base, so that. And we were giving the message out, because tall ships in Cavan now, there'd have to be a great earthquake before ships would actually get as far as Cavan, you know. So, but it was a magnificent. I don't know if you saw it or not, but it was absolutely fabulous.
Really
and you have events like that in Dublin, and then you have the Volvo Ocean Race in Galway. So they're type of things that. It's important to be able to show them in their native style.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned there that when you were doing the video for the Strypes, that you had to be very apologetic to one of your studio, or one of the places that had the equipment, because you had so much equipment in it. Now, I cut my teeth up in Dublin in broadcasting and pirate radio in the early 70s, when you had a microphone from a cassette recorder, 2 record players, and a transmitter made out of a tin box, and that was the end of it. What sort of equipment do you now need to get web-based television out? And what have you got, more to the point?
Well, again, there are decisions that you have to make, that that infrastructure you have to put in place. We have up to 8 camera switching. We don't use 8 cameras. We have the latest digital chroma key facility. You can see in the background that's a chroma key similar to the weather. So when you put in
when you say chroma key, what is the chroma key?
It's basically the old method, in a sense, was a green screen, but the newer digital one is the backdrop here is a glass bead or glass prism that reflects a LED light, whereas the other one was backlit by these are all technical things, and they told me not to talk technical, Colm. So, but you know, it's putting.
And you do what you tell.
But you have to make decisions. You know, when you're investing money into a thing, you have to make a decision that.
Yeah. Well, in a nutshell, you've stated the art equipment company. And again, with that state of the art equipment, what sort of gigs are you available to do?
Well, for example, we did the GAA Player Awards ceremony last Friday. We had 3 cameras in that. We had video, Dave Van Stanton, who looks after the audio and the media PC end of things. We had media insertion from the GAA that had, when the players were receiving the awards, the where they played and some of the events that they'd won was showcased as part of the presentation. So we were able to integrate that media with part of the presentation.
So if businesses want to promote themselves, if sports clubs want to have a record of what they're doing, I suppose if politicians want to improve their image on TV, Drumlinmedia as a company is available for all those type of things.
Yeah. Well, that's it. As I said, you have to put everything in place, because we have the auto cue similar to the news readers as an assist to presenters, because when you're dealing with maybe 3 or 4 or 5 guests on a show, maybe putting 3 or 4 different events across, it's important that you're able to deliver the exact message, just word for word. That means that you're not duplicating and that you're introducing it at the right time. So we have the auto cue. We basically have.
You've everything that you need to produce good quality video for companies, for individuals.
And that would include, say, corporate training. Even if people were going for interviews, that's another service that we have provided to people. We haven't advertised it as yet, but people that it's important for people to showcase themselves. Now there could be 200 people going for a job. And when like in the past, it was an employees market, but now it's an employers market. So when you're going for a job, you have to make sure that you've only one opportunity to do
it right, by preparing for yourself, by coming to a training course run by yourselves here in Drumlinmedia. So that's tonight's programme. I hope with my guest Brian Daly you found out what happens behind a TV production company, and you can see the fruits of it anytime on the web when you check out Drumlinmedia or any of the other web platforms that he have. So I've been Colm Colgan. Thanks for listening. Do tune in next week. Until then, have a great week. Bye bye.